But first, let's bring in National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow, who is live from the White House in a Fox Business exclusive. Larry, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Larry, you know the media. You were part of the media, for goodness sakes. Are you really surprised that a Trump-hating media won't give the president credit for the economy?
Well, David Asman, yeah, I've been in the media for a long time. Let me just say this. There's some really good reporters out there, and then there's some that not so much. You happen to be one of the really good ones, so you cover the beat. That's all I'll say. And I think the president is right. I think that actually, you know what? After kind of a dull winter and government shutdowns and this and that, looks to me like we're getting a new life in the economy.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that the GDP on Friday is going to come out, 2.5% to 3%, and if you added on an adjustment for the shutdown, it would actually be well over 3%. I love the drop in unemployment claims. I love the rebound in retail sales. I love the fact that businesses are spending rapidly. I love the fact that inflation is going down. You know why? Because supply-side tax cuts produce production and investment, which actually lowers prices, right? More supply, chasing demand. I love this whole story. I think the president's got it right. And like I say, buddy, some reporters are better than others.
Well, we thank you for the compliment, Larry, but I'm just wondering about, it's a very optimistic viewpoint of where the economy is going, and it certainly has turned around from December, but do you think we can make it through the election before there's a recession?
I think if the policies stay in place, this is very important, if the policies stay in place, and I believe they will, the low tax rates, particularly on business, but also individuals, the rollback of regulatory burdens across the board, including energy. We're in an energy explosion. I mean, isn't it fascinating? We put additional oil sanctions on the runaway rogue state Iran, and oil prices hardly went up, and now it looks like they're correcting downward again. That's a great American triumph. We're dominant. I want to stay with the trade reforms. I think we have a very good chance of some pro-growth trade reforms coming up. So if those policies stay in place, they're pro-growth, supply-side, free market policies. They're private enterprise, free enterprise policies. You have a president who believes that business is not a dirty word, that more people working does not cause inflation, that you should be rewarded for your success, not punished. As long as those tenets and principles stay in place, yes. Yes, I believe the economy continues to roar as far as the eye can see.
Well, Larry, let's think of your worst nightmare here, and that Democrats take over the White House. I haven't seen many moderate Democrats so far, at least in the race. Biden would be one if he enters tomorrow, as his plan. But from what you have seen of the Democrats move towards the socialist left, what would happen if those policies were implemented in the United States?
Well, it would be a rough patch. I mean, look. 2019 is in place, 2020 is in place. That's not going to happen. Now, if you're right, worst case, I think these socialist policies would be very damaging. Among other things, it would sap the morale of the country, the kind of collectivist, central planning that we've seen talking about, government telling you what to do, where to do it, how to do it, et cetera, destroying the private sector. I mean, you can take health care and universal Medicare. You can give away as many free student loans as you want. You can pay as many people that don't want to work as you want. You can end all fossil fuels and destroy. You'd probably knock off, inside 10 years, 15% of the GDP. One of my favorite stats, I know one of the candidates just talked about at some length, the universal Medicare for all. Well, guess what? They'll wind up being Medicare for none. 180 million, okay? 180 million people will lose their health care policy contracts. Can you imagine that? That would be the biggest encroachment and confiscation of property in history. And I think it's very important that the younger group think hard, and I want to always talk to them, the millennials and so forth. Churchill said, if you're in your 20s and you're not a socialist, you have no heart. But in the 30s, if you're not a capitalist, you have no mind. And a lot of these young people are starting to be working now to understand the value of a dollar and hard work. So what I'm saying is We must prevent this. We must put socialism on trial and convict it. The Medicare for All is one example. The Green New Deal is another example. There are a lot of other weird things coming out of the socialist left.
We don't have much time, Larry.
The prosperity.
You mentioned trade talks. I want to talk about a couple of things in particular. The Japanese, I understand the Japanese representative is coming in this week. There's talk inside the Beltway that maybe there's an agricultural deal that has been penned with the Japanese where they would buy more of our agricultural products, particularly meat and pork. Can you tell us anything about that?
Don't want to get ahead of any stories. Ambassador Lighthizer, our trade man, best in the business, he's talking to the Japanese as we talk right now. Prime Minister Abe is coming. He's an awful good man. He's a presidential POTUS favorite and one of my favorites of the foreign leaders. He loves to do business. He loves to talk trade. I don't want to be specific or forecast, but we're hard at it, talking to them.
Let's talk about Mexico, the redo of NAFTA, the USMCA. There are a lot of problems, as you know, on the border. We don't have to mention what they are. Everybody knows. Are they in any way going to affect that trade deal?
Well, no. Look, the USMCA deal is a terrific deal. It's a terrific deal. And the International Trade Commission said it was the best deal since the mid-1980s. We figure that deal, $100 billion in annual GDP over a period of time. And not only strengthening domestic content, let's say for autos and manufacturing, which is very important, but also protection of intellectual property rights and patents could spark a tremendous investment boom, a lot of entrepreneurship. I think 0.3 to 0.5 increased GDP per year, David Asman. Those are big numbers.
It would be great,
Those are big numbers.
What's going on in the border is not going to affect anything that has been decided about the USMCA, because
I don't believe so.
We heard the president talk about tariffs, the possibility of tariffs if the Mexicans don't help out anymore.
Well, they did at one time, but the Mexicans responded, which is what I think POTUS really wanted, and there's some very good movement there. Look, we are totally committed to USMCA. Bob Lighthizer put this together. I think it's the single best trade deal in American history. I mean that. I've been out there fighting for it. Happy to talk about it on your program. It's so totally pro-growth and pro-entrepreneurship. It fits right in with all the other things that this administration is trying to do. And I'm still playing it cautiously optimistic on the China trade.
Well, let's talk about China, Larry.
They're hard at it.
China has all of the tensions between the China and the U.S. have caused a lot of problems, not just here, but around the world. If there is a China deal, what happens to the world economy? Do we see how big a boom could we get from a good China deal?
Well, if it's a good deal, or to use the president's phrase, if it's a great deal, and if it's an enforceable deal, then yes, I think it's win-win growth for everybody. It'll help open up Chinese economy. If they open up their economy, we will sell them a ton of goods. Our export sales will soar. We are the most competitive economy in the world, right? So if they let us in, we'll have phenomenal export sales trading across the board and maybe fix some of these terrible technological deals, theft, forced transfers, cloud, but enforcement is crucial, so it's got to work. If it does work, yes, I think it's going to add to economic growth, absolutely.
Larry, final question about the Fed. We got a couple of friends who were in the running for that. Herman Cain is out. It was made official this week. Steve Moore, is he still in? And if so, when is the president officially going to nominate him?
Well, let me say a couple things. Steve Moore is in. He continues to have the backing of the president and myself. He is in the process. You have to be vetted. The FBI and so forth has to go through everything. And then at that point, if it looks good, he will be formally nominated, sent up to the Hill. The Senate Banking Committee will then go through their own vetting and voting process. I wish him luck. We stand completely behind him. I think he would give us a breath of fresh air on the Fed. Hey, listen, David, you've never heard me say this. More people working and succeeding do not cause inflation. Now, if somebody on the Fed can get up and say that every day,
Yeah.
like a mantra, like the Lord's Prayer. This is the Lord's economic growth prayer, okay? If they can do that, it would be a great service to the Fed. And by the way, I think the Fed's starting to move in that direction anyway, so we're still behind Steve Moore.
By the way, just for the record, I've been hearing you say that for the past 30 years. It's nothing new from Larry Kudlow, but now we're seeing it in action because you're right. Inflation's coming down, even though we're growing the number of jobs like never before. Larry, great to see you. Please don't be a stranger. Come back and see us soon.
Anytime. Appreciate it, David.
Appreciate it.